Hello there, Internet and you amazing creatures of the beyond. Welcome, welcome. As you can see, today we have a cat above my head. It is our new esteemed guest. Yeah. Today we're gonna talk about memory. Um, I was doing some wacky stuff in Inkscape, and there was this technique which I could have sworn on my life it was done in a specific way. The technique doesn't matter, but the point is that the way I was trying to make it happen, it didn't work, and I did not understand why. And I was particularly remembering it that way, being done that way. And then I went through various guides online to see the procedure, and it was totally different than how I approached it. And I was like, how the hell can this happen? Am I that stupid? What the hell happened to me? It's like I know that my memory is intact and it can work and it does the way I want it to work, doesn't it? Well, the answer is no. And after I checked the technique, I saw that I was doing a few steps wrong. But in my brain, I was so sure that I was doing them correct. And that is the truth about our memory. When we're working on something or when we're trying to recall something, we're actually in our brain, we're not recalling the memory. We are actually recalling the last time we remembered that memory. So it's like an iteration. The first time it happens, the next day you remember or you try to recall the memory is in specific parameters. Okay, so let's say mm, a year ago you had an event and let's say somebody tries to tell you to ask you what did you do after that event, and you might say, well, I went in the kitchen. So the very next day, I went in the kitchen and I cooked some dinner, and that was that. After a year, after the event has passed, the same person asks you the same question, and you reply with, after the event ended, what have you done? You will say, well, I went to bed. Because our memories actually try to distort a bit the event. And this is more natural than you think. You can fabricate memories. And of course, these are just tiny details, but sometimes these tiny details can morph into bigger things later on and can distort the entire past. So you might remember things very differently than they actually happened, which is very fascinating to me. And just the fact that you remember what you remembered, and so on until the very first thing, all these iterations are a bit like the AI, the more AI art is generated out there, the more the AI are starting to implement this generated AI art and deform it. It's starting to inbreed in a way, Anyway, so our memories, we can truly believe them with swearing on our lives that they happened that way, and they actually didn't. And this is, if you ever heard of the Mandela effect, where people just think an event happened in a specific way, but actually it didn't. And one prolific example that I have spoken in the past about is with the Star Wars movies, where Darth Vader meets his son, and everybody thinks that Darth Vader says, "Look, I am your father," but in fact, and we can all swear he says that because in our mind we generate that memory and the voice, and we implement that gap, and we say, "Look," but in actuality, in the movie, he doesn't say "Look," he just says, "I am your father." But it's so amazing how convinced we can become about such elements. And related to this, a friend of mine recommended a book to me. And it's a rather old book, it's from 1985, I believe. and it's called Amusing Ourselves to Death by Neil Postman. I will put the link to this book. It's a free book. You can find it anywhere. But I'll put it from the Google Drives. I found it as a PDF. So you guys can read it. It's a short book. It's 100 and something pages. And I was skimming through this book, reading all the things that I already knew in general, but this guy takes a bit of a different approach to it. He looks at this book is about media, and when I say media, in general, he focuses on TV, and he sees it more as a scene and something that we have to live with, and it's kind of very, I don't know, gloomy, his approach. But then again, it was written in 1985, so it was a different era and a different view on things, and technology was quite confusing back then. Um, and in his book, he starts relating to the fact of how our information started to expand about the world outside our local environment. So when the what's it called, the Morse thing, ah, the uh, I don't remember the name of the device. Anyway, they were getting information outside of the state or of the local county they were living in, and through Morse code and telegraph. I think the telegraph. And people started associating the importance of local news with the importance of external things that were happening outside of their known environment. And that started to change people's view in the sense that it generated these global trends. Of course, this was just nothing back then, it was just the beginning of something more elaborate down the road. Then there was the radio, and all of this impacted society in a way that was unforeseen, in the sense that it was created the public opinion, and the public opinion started to shift toward general things. And I don't particularly agree with the view of Neil Postman. He looks at everything like technology has ruined our life, but to be honest, technology is inevitable in a developing world. And it's like a tool. It's basically like a knife. It's up to you to be conscious enough how to use it. Of course, you can use it to do creative things and constructive things and things that impact everybody in a positive way, or you can use it destructively against yourself or against other people. But and that's both intentionally or unintentional. And he kind of leans in towards this idea that non-intentionally we have created this public opinion that starts to create false narratives, but lately down the line of events, people, opportunists, and we are an opportunistic species, of course, because we are descendants from carnivores and not herbivores. Otherwise, our eyes would be to the sides and not in front. That's just one thing. And people who started abusing these things started to manipulate the way people perceive the world through news media, regardless if it's, well, back then the internet wasn't a thing, but through TV, and the way the story, not the fact, the story was elaborated in such a way that people would be affected emotionally instead of at a mental state. And as we know, the internet came after, and that has amplified all of these effects. And I do understand his view, but the outline of this book should have been that we needed more education about how we should investigate information more in depth for ourselves before we take it at heart what we see. And he states the fact that we we became a bit lazy in the way we absorb information. We rather trust somebody on TV that we see in repetitive times to tell us in repetitive manners the same story, which has a very well defined narrative by those opportunistic entities to shape your view on how you perceive people around you or the world and so on. And that can lead to people getting frustrated, divided, and trying to reject certain things that they do not fully understand. And we've seen this in many places of the world, especially in America. In America, TV, because this book is written by an American author and is especially developed for the American medium. But this inevitably has spread all over the world, the way news reach people and how it distorts their view. And believe it or not, we're very easily manipulated into changing our view if we do not look at the facts for ourselves and try to investigate it through multiple sources instead of just taking it from one source that's more prominent than the others. And that is the reality. Um, so the brains have this capacity of fabricating information for us, and that is also a good thing because there are people who actually remember everything as it is, and it's more of a curse for them because they are pestered by the past and all of those events, and they have to relive them, and their memory is so much more active than ours. And in a way, we kind of shift all of that past for us so we can kind of forget about the sad events in our past, and we can fabricate a nicer narrative. But when we are exposed to media, that narrative can be shaped however the media wants it to be. And of course, there are many fronts to debate about media because media today means so many things, and especially on the internet, you have so many places to look for information now. The only thing that requires of us is the motivation to do so. And I usually like to go and, for example, if there is a peer review information or paper or anything like that, I like to see it from um, multiple aspects where people review it via their channels, or if somebody uh, has something critical to say about it. And as a rule of thumb, even when I go buy a game, I always look at the negative reviews first. And I look not for negative reviews in the sense, this game sucks. No, I look for those lengthy game reviews where I see maybe another player say, I have this amount of hours and I've been playing since I don't know how many years or months and so on, and I looked at these specific issues that were in the games and they haven't been fixed, or they have been made worse, or the developers haven't heard our concerns and so on. So if there is a very lengthy review and it describes many aspects, I try to take it at heart as a hard how should I say, fact about the game. But then I put it in contrast with the positive reviews and other reviews, and then I ask my friends if they played the game, and after that I take an informed decision if I truly want to play the game or not, or buy it for myself. And of course, this is just for very specific games, not all of the games that are known and so on. But the same should apply to everything else in this world, because if we limit ourselves to information to just one thing like TV or just one YouTube channel, we're always going to get our mind warped into thinking, oh, the world is gloomy or is not the way we want it. And We distort our image of reality so much that it becomes a mess, and we start to become very impulsive related to this. And this can apply to the tiniest things possible. Just like I was with my technique trying to solve it in Inkscape, I was very impulsive with myself, saying like, this has to work, why can't it make it work? And I mean the software. And when I understood that I was the flaw in the step because I was applying the wrong principles to the workflow, then I corrected that and it worked. But if we do not apply the same principles to the views of the world through our mediums that we collect information from online or TV or radio or whatever, then we're also going to become very impulsive on the tiniest things and whatever else somebody else says critical about what we already have absorbed as to be true, in quotes. Because if somebody challenges those stories that have been crafted for us, we take them and make them our stories. And then when we are being challenged, it's like we are our reality of what we know and we are sure we know is being destroyed, and we feel that we are in danger and we have to retaliate instead of just us looking further past those basic stories and searching for information in multiple sources to make sure that what we know is correct. And it's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy. Sometimes you have to dig really hard to find information, and information is so widespread, and misinformation as well can be widespread. So it's very difficult to make an informed decision on just, let's say, an hour of research. And even I sometimes research multiple days, for example, for something to make sure that I understand it correctly, or maybe at least try to get it as accurate as possible. And it's not necessarily to be 100% correct, but at least be somewhere in the margin of 80% correct. Because if you're going to die on a hill that you say, like, my 10% is correct and 90% of what everyone says is wrong, then that's not super healthy. So, yeah, that's my little rant for today about memory, which is fascinating in so many ways. But it's always, we have to always look inwards, not outwards, when we feel like something is not okay or we do not fully grasp a topic. And the more we understand it, um, and we can correlate it to other people and other sources, that information, the better we can move forward as a society together. But yeah, I don't know what will happen in the future. The future is very, I don't know, shrouded in mystery. And it's interesting in a way. You don't know what happens tomorrow. Maybe it's something totally insane and amazing, or totally, I don't know, destructive and scary. I'm leaning towards the first version because I like amazing and happy. But yeah, we go with the flow. You guys stay awesome. Catch you later. Bye 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 bye.